Good morning. We had a storm on August 10, 2020, and it was Monday. And we lost power that Monday around 11 or by 11:30 in the morning until Saturday evening. Shortly after 6 p.m. that we got the electricity back on August 16, 2020. So we stayed without electricity for 6 days. And I like to share how we live within during those 6 days, and what I learned from that experience, and how I like to be prepared for a situation like that. And I recall that when I was in Missouri, studying for my MBA, we went through a similar situation, but I was living with my brother, and we didn't have electricity for about a week as well. So, and now having kids, 3 kids between 9 and 4, to go through that, it was not easy, but I'm just thankful that we got the electricity back. So if I forget something, I might put it in the description or in the comments. But it is very important to be prepared for a situation like this if you live in an area that that faces natural disaster times to times. So we live in the Middle West, and it is known for storm. So summer is pretty much storm season, but it just doesn't get this hard most of the time. So, and so when it happened, we lost power. Well, our stove is electricity powered. So that means we couldn't cook using our stove. We have water, the tap water. Usually most of people in the house drink filtered water from the fridge, but we all drank tap water. So, and we're just fine with it. The city didn't say anything about the quality of the water, so we use tap water for drinking and cooking. So fire, how did I have fire to cook? Over 4 years, I would say, more than 4 years ago, I went to a city nearby with my husband, and we visited a store, an Asian store, and I don't recall why I went there to purchase, but I saw a clay stove, and I requested my husband to purchase it because around that time I was doing research on how to be self-sustainable and sufficient, and I came across a clay oven that you can put up outside on some fired brick, and you put a lot of wood in it, you set fire, and you close it. So that's a type of stove they don't really sell. You buy clay and hay, and you mix it together, and it is said to be a fun project for the whole family, including kids. So you mix it together, and then you make that oven with it, and then you leave an opening on top somewhere for the smoke to escape. So when you set fire in it, you close it, the wood will burn completely, and you take the wood, the ash out, you clean it up, and you put bean in a cast iron pan, you put in the oven, you close it, and you cook the bean for the time frame it will be during the time frame that is necessary. And then when you take the bean out, you put bread in it, and you bake bread. When you take bread out, you bake pizza. So you can cook multiple things in that oven. And I found it interesting, and I wanted to have something like that outside to cook during summertime. But I didn't see it that it was on the market for purchase, but they have a lot of tutorial how you can make it yourself. So when I saw that stove, in fact, when I was looking at it at that type of a clay oven, I recall that in Africa there is some clay stove that people make, and they cook with wood. So I wanted something like that outside in case there is power loss. I could cook outside, or during summertime I can cook outside times to times. So, and then when I saw this clay stove, it reminded me of that wood stove that I wanted to have. But this one will use charcoal because it has a type of screen halfway in it, and then I purchased it anyway. But I wanted something that I can use wood with. So we didn't use that stove ever until now. But well, having that stove was very helpful because my smoker and barbecue grill, they takes long. I mean, we just use the smoker, but it takes long to set fire, and setting fire in the ball is just a challenge to keep that fire going on. And I don't think it's well suitable to cook from scratch. You can smoke meat, you can do those type of things, but to cook from scratch on that, I think it will be a little bit more, it will take more time. But this clay stove was easy for me to set fire within 15 minutes and be ready to start cooking. And I felt like it cooked my meals even faster than our electric stove. It was just my personal opinion, because I will cook pretty much within 2 hours. The food is ready for eating, and I was saving within 1 hour or so. So, and how did I use that stove? The first day we have charcoal, so I used some of the charcoal. It didn't use a lot of charcoal at all. So I put some paper, tear it up, put it in on the grill. It's like a type of rock, but it's kind of sealed with a hole so that the ash can go out at the bottom of the stove. So I put the paper there, add a little bit of twigs to it, and then add charcoal like a pyramid, not to put weight on the paper, and then I lit it with few matches. So, and for the paper, I just use bank statement, those sensitive documents that you want to shred. I like to collect them in a box and just mulch the garden with them, or barbecue with in summer. So we have that, and I just use some, tear it up, and just put it there. And that's how I made it. I set the fire, I lit the stove the first time that Monday, and as soon as the charcoal have fire on them, which was very quickly, and the charcoal that I used didn't have fuel added to it. So, and I just put the cast iron on it and just cook. But then I told my mom pointed out that when you add a little fat to the paper, it burns even faster. And I told her that I was looking for wood stove when I found this one, and she suggested that I could put some wood at the bottom where the ash should go. I could put wood there as well to cook. So the second day I tried that, and how I did it was just to put paper there, some twigs, and I put a tablespoon of peanut oil on top of it and just lit it. I put on the paper, put the twigs. The twigs were dried raspberry cane. In fact, they're not even dry, but yeah, they were like the last year cane from raspberries that produced this summer. I cut those brown cane out, so I chopped them in small pieces, and some twigs from the garden, just added to it just a little bit of twigs and lit the fire. And as that burning, I put a big wood, and big by big I just made about 1 inch diameter, and I put it in on top of the fire. And very quickly those dry wood got flame on them, and I just put the cast iron pan on top of it and I cook. So so that's how the fire powers. And how did I cook, or what did I cook? So the meals, I cook 1 time a day, just the dinners. And in July, early July, we purchased many hundreds pounds of we purchased hundreds pounds of rice and many pounds of spaghetti. So and then we purchased a lot of tomato puree. So having those 3 ingredients on my shelves was very helpful. And I just cook rice one day, spaghetti the next, and vice versa. So, and for the sauce, well, I will just, while the rice is cooking, I will just open a 29 ounces of tomato puree, pour in another cast iron. And I have canned meats that I canned myself in 2017. And after canning those meats and canning a lot of vegetables, my goal that year was to have 1 year of canned food supply on the shelves, things that will go in the freezer, have them on the shelves. Well, I came to that conclusion that it was not necessary for me to can meats or can vegetables, because it took about 3 hours, 90 minutes. I don't even know anymore the canning time for those. You had to pressure can them for many minutes, for more than an hour. And I didn't think it was really worth the time put into it to can those vegetables that I just cook lightly on the stove when they come out of the freezer or directly from the garden. So I prefer to freeze my vegetables, and I prefer to freeze my meat because it's just easier like that. And I will use the meat in winter time for soup. So they were great for soup, but I didn't use a lot of those canned meat. So this spring, as I was running low in meat, I decided to use a lot of those canned meat since they were canned since 2017, so that I can go through them very quickly. So I used a lot of those canned meat so that I can build up my frozen meat supply in the freezer. But then I thought that I was out of those canned meat, and I only have a few jars. But then when I check after the storm, I have more than 1 dozen of ground beef there. So those ground beef were the meat supply for us. So I'll open one of the jar. They were quart size. I'll open one of the jar and just pour the content on the tomato puree, add salt, a little chili pepper, and that's it. And I'll put it on the stove. Once the meat is the rice is done or the pasta is done, I'll put the sauce on the stove, the clay stove, and in less than 5 minutes that things will start boiling. And it's just surprising how the cast iron will take the heat very quickly, and the flame from the wood were able to cook like that. So when we put the wood, we'll put a long wood, like 2 or 3 in the stove, and then as it burns, we'll just push it back, we'll just push it forward. And when we feel like we're not having enough flame, we'll just shake the wood a little bit, push it inside in the stove, and then we'll just have all those flame again. And when I wanted to add vegetables to the sauce, I'll just go in the garden and harvest fresh sorrel, Rumex acetosa. So I'll harvest them, rinse, chop it up, and add it to it. So it was very quickly to cook the sauce within 15 minutes, and the food is ready to serve. But then when we eat the leftover, we just put it in the trash. So that's how we cook. And one of the day when my husband could shop, I asked to buy chicken, fried chicken. It was just something that once in a while we indulge on. and I let the kids eat as many as they want, and my husband has that idea that he could take the leftovers to put in the fridge at his work. So he did that, and we didn't have to toss the meat and the rice and the sauce that day. So that's how we are able to go through those days with dinner meals. What about breakfast and lunches? Well, we purchased 40 boxes of dry cereal, like the one you put in the milk. They were on sale for 99 cents in a store, and usually they have that every year, like once or twice around school time. So that's something that I know that we will get around school time, and I get prepared for it. That's when I stock up on cereal. So when they have it, we purchase 40 of them. So I will use that with roasted peanuts, unsalted roasted peanuts, to make just like a trail mix for the kids to eat in the morning. For lunch, I'll give them about the same thing, and we have popcorn that were pop leftovers. I will serve them that, and a few days later, when my husband was able to shop, he purchased grape and banana on sale, so I will serve that for lunch or breakfast. And we have those, and then he purchased animal crackers, the regular and the chocolate one, so we added to it. So those are the things that the kids ate for breakfast and lunches and snack between. So they like bananas, and they will just eat a lot of it, which was great because I won't have to they won't go bad. So that's how we were able to feed ourselves during those 6 days: breakfast, lunches, and dinner and snack between. The kids didn't miss out much. Even on Friday, our family routine, Friday popcorn night, we had it as well. I made popcorn outside on the clay stove, and they have popcorn and they ate, and we all spent the night in the living room. So what about shopping? Well, when the storm damaged the power lines, because many trees fell on power lines, many stores were closed, including Walmarts. They didn't have lights. And even my husband went there with cash. He couldn't shop. And he said that, well, without electricity, the cash registers won't open. So it is known that in average, Americans have about 3 days of food supplies at home. So if you think grocery stores are there to be the store to store your groceries for you to shop anytime you want, well, you might want to think again, because there could be a time when you have the means to shop, but the store may not have what you need or what you want, or may not be able to supply you. So having 3 days of food supplies at home is a little bit risky. Relying on grocery store to feed you is a little bit risky. So, and going through this time, I learned a few things from it that I will change, and that's the reason why I wanted to have this video, and I wanted to have a recording on my blog as well, for my personal reminder, and for anyone that will need that information. We couldn't shop. Our carbon monoxide detector took that same period to start making noise, and it is one with battery, but we plug it as well. So without electricity, it relied on the battery, and the battery was weak. So we had to replace the battery, and my husband didn't like the noise, so he took the battery out, and I said, no, we cannot be without carbon monoxide in the house. We still have gas, so it's not safe. And I told him that we have a spare battery, he need to put it in it, and hopefully it worked, and we just put it back. So having a spare batteries is important. We have flashlights, and I like to put our flashlights in at the same place, so that even in the dark we can get to it. So we have that flashlight, and I have some spare batteries that I gave my parents to put in their flashlight as well. I have a little flashlight that I gave to the kids to take to bed, and I think the flashlight that we have was Maglit or something like that. So my husband said that's kind of a good brand, a sturdy Maglit. I think that's the brand. But anyway, we have one of that, and we are able to be okay. I try to cook before it is dark outside. I didn't send the kids to bed early. That's what I should have done, and I did it one of the day as well, so that they don't face the darkness. They can go to bed while it's still bright outside, and they can go through the night and wake up in the morning after dark, when it's still bright outside. But it didn't work that way, because my youngest one struggle at night, because they go to bed with night light. So when he wakes up without night lights, he struggle with it. And we went to bed with ice cream lids, like gallon of ice cream. The lids, they have it on their leg. They have those containers for their Legos. We just took the lids to bed to fan ourselves. So I'll fan him, and one of the time I put the flashlight on for him, and within few minutes he fell back asleep. So I knew that he needed a type of light in the home. So at that point, when my husband could shop, I asked him to purchase a battery powered night light. I didn't know something like that existed until the our department director stopped by, because she didn't hear from me, and she stopped by to check on me. We just talked from distance, and she didn't have power as well, and she has kids around the same age as mine, and she said she used battery powered night lights for them. So that gave me the idea to shop for that, and my husband was able to find and purchase one that the kids took to bed. As for my youngest one, I just used a flashlight there for him. So having those night lights battery powered is good, and the one we purchased, you could plug it when you have electricity, and you can use it as a flashlight as well. So that's good to have those things on hand for situations like this, because they have multiple purposes. And what else? So that's the battery, having spare batteries on hand for things that you use at home that require batteries is a good idea. I think I didn't have enough ready to eat snacks on my shelves, so that's something that I need to work on. When we are able to shop, I told my husband to purchase many bags of animal crackers, and I think we got like 6 or more than that bags of them, and we will purchase more of dry peanuts as well, roasted peanut. We stock up on peanuts every month, but I need to have more than one worth supply of that on hand. So having those ready to eat snack is a way to eat without cooking during the day, to make good use of your resources and your time as well. So having more of that is a good idea. And if you can, it will be good to can fruit as well. In fact, I have not even thought, if I have leftover of canned fruit, I could have served them. That I have pear that I have served them a while ago. I don't know if I have leftover. In fact, I didn't really go through all my canned food that I have. Not that I have vegetables, acorn canned back in 2017 or 18 that I still have. I didn't even use any of those things. I'll just focus on the meat, and I just want to cook something that is easy to cook: rice, spaghetti. So one or the other, and my kids ate just fine. In fact, they like the spaghetti more than the rice for some reason during that time frame. So if you can, it will be good to have some canned meat. So I think I will continue canning meat, and in fact I like to can broth because I can make soup during winter time to help with cold season. So I like to make vegetable broth and can them, make meat broth, like bone broth, and can them chicken bone broth and can them, but I think I will still can some meat so that I can have some jar of meat on hand. So that is canning. So if you like to can, that'll be a good idea. And if I can this year, I might record some videos to share as well. And if you are looking into canning and you wanted to buy a pressure canner, American, I believe 921 might be what I have. All American 921. I have Presto, that's what I started with. It is okay. I think I put 7 quart jars in that, as well as in my, our American is 7 quart jar as well. So, and the reason why I like the Presto, the difference between the Presto and the American that I use, all American brand that I use, is the all American get off pressure very quickly after you are done canning. When you turn the heat off, it get off pressure very quickly. So you'll be able to do more in one day. The Presto takes longer to get off pressure before you can even open the lid. But the American is fast on that. And one thing that I like about the American as well is the base is a little bit smaller, so it can stay on my regular size. The electric stove burner that I have, you know, the larger size, the larger ring. So I like that as well, and that was the reason why I went for it. When I have the pressure, I was looking for something else. All American, the side, the width of the bottom was a factor, was important for me. I want something that would sit on the burner, not going way past over it. So that was that. And if you like to water can, that thin enamel pen that they sell at Walmart, to me was not really useful at all. I purchased it to can fruit, but it was just too wide for my stove. It worked, but when I purchased the 21 quarts or 22 quarts of stock pot to make broth, I just found it easier to use that stock pot to water bath can my fruits. So if you try to water bath can, just buy a stock pot. And I like that stock pot because it has a small base which could sit well on the larger burner of my electric stove. So I like that as well. And I think I'll do some canning to have some of those things on hand because they were very useful. The meat, my meat supply was what I can 3 years ago. And what else will I touch? So now be able to buy charcoal. It's good to have charcoal on hand, you know, so that you can cook. But not be able to have charcoal, even though we have a little bit left, it wouldn't, if I would rely on charcoal, I won't have enough for the whole week. So using wood from my property was very helpful. So I was able to cook anything I wanted to cook. And let's talk about the pans. Cast iron pans, brand Large. I like that brand, and I don't like to buy any other brand beside Large. So cast iron pan, I have stainless steel. I didn't even bother try to cook with stainless steel on that stove, on that clay stove, because I cook with flame, so that will dirty the pan. My parents try to cook with stainless steel, and I have a little pan that they are using, and just left it to them. And they use a type of coated pen that I have that I'm not using anymore, but they are using it. It's kind of high and ionized or a high ionized pen or something like that. I don't recall. I think I purchased it at Sears back the day. So, and it was kind of heavy duty pen they are using it, and I just wanted to get away from those things when I start buying cast iron pens and 3-ply stainless steel. So what I noticed is that the stainless steel pan that they will use will be like dark at the outside, but then my mom will use coal ash from the stove with some grass, and easily she will clean up the outside of it and rinse it up and then take it to the sink and just wash it off. So it was easy for her to clean it up without problem. And let's remember that the ash from wood is pretty much sodium potassium hydroxide is what is used to make liquid soap or soft soap. Potassium hydroxide. So yeah, or potash or whatever that is called. So it clean up the pens. I didn't use it. Cast iron has a color that blends in well with the dark smoke, so it was easy not to notice it, and I'll just easily clean it up in the sink. As when it comes to burning the food, my cast iron didn't burn the food much at all. It was easy for me to clean inside and outside of the pan when I was done. So if you are looking for a pan, cast iron is the way to go, because this iron, it conducts heat very well. So that's that. The stainless steel that my parents used took longer to cook. When my cast iron, it was just very quickly. So that clay stove, you can look it up, but I will have a video on how we cook, because I was able to record a few videos before the battery was dead. It was during the storm, during the power loss time. And I think I might have a video just to show how you can make fire using wood, and probably how you can make fire using charcoal, when you don't have power, just in case somebody is looking for that resource. So, and what else? So we cover the snack, the meal. So it's very good to have dry ingredients on your shelves. Rice, pasta, if you eat them, just buy what you eat. So that's what I stock up on. I don't stock up for many years type of, it's not what type of stock that I do. It's for everyday use, and then I just replenish it. So we have a $300 budget for our family this year, our household of 7 this year, and I just like to stock up on things we use. So if you wanted to stock up on some ingredients, just have a list of things you use and buy things that are important. When you buy something, you can buy extra for the next month or things like that, or a little by little it just build up. So we have oil on hand, but I didn't have to use my oil much because the canned meat has fat on top of it, so it was ground beef. So I just have the necessary ingredient, the broth, the meat, and the fat in one jar, put it in on the tomato puree, add some green from the vegetables, and the sauce is ready to go on pasta. They could that just pretty much like spaghetti sauce, or to go with rice, and then we just dispose of the rest. So snacks, good to have some snacks on hand for breakfast and and snacks and lunch. We covered that. So shopping, well, we couldn't shop, I said that before, and that is the reason why it's good to have things on hand, so that you can go through it with some days without. So if we didn't have to shop the whole week, we will have been fine, without problem, fine. So I could make fire during the day to cook lunch if I wanted to. We have peanuts, we have a lot of dry cereals that my kids could just snack on for breakfast and lunch without problem. And if an adult has a problem with that, that's the adult problem. As long as my kids are fed, I'm fine. So they are not picky, and that's just what matters. So if an adult has problem with that, he or she can just cook, because the stove is there, the wood is outside, fell from all over the places, so it's not hard to find wood. So adult, I don't worry more about adult, because adult cooks, right? Kids depend on adult. So my kids depend on me to feed them, so well-being was a concern for me and is a concern for me. So my meals and everything is, the kids are who I target, and I cook what they eat, and I feed them what I want them to eat. So they don't need out, they didn't eat at school much. They take food to school. They took food from home to school when the school was in season. So they, my cook meal is what they learn to eat. So they like it. Little by little, I'll introduce things to it. They might like something, they might not like something, but what they like, I take note of that and see how I can, adjust a little bit, add a little bit of what I want to add it to it to make it a little bit more healthier. So they are the targets because they are the ones that depend on me to feed them. And as long as I can satisfy them, I can feed them, I'm fine. So having those cereals on hand, having peanut, that's a protein source there, and that's unsalted. They don't like it sweet, they don't like it salted. Because the first time that I served them that, it was the unsalted one. So when my husband made a mistake to buy honey flavored peanut, my middle one didn't like it at all. She pointed out that it was different. It was even because of her that I knew that it was another type that I was serving them. So I said, yeah, well, we have it, we have to eat it. And then I pointed out to my husband not to buy that one. And then he accidentally purchased sea salted one, and she pointed out that it is not what they eat. And after that, he made sure he purchased unsalted roasted peanuts. Not sea salt, not honey, unsalted, because that's what my kids like to eat, and that's what I like to eat. So feed your kids, make them get used to your food. It makes life easier. They can be picky at times, but that's okay, So, and at one point we bought the chicken, like I said, and they ate a lot of it. Some of them ate a lot, some of them didn't much, but my kids eat meat, When one time I complained to the doctor when they were younger that, they eat a lot of meat, she told me that I should be happy because kids generally don't eat meat. So my husband eats meat, and I'm not a big meat eater until I met him. So, but now I cook a lot of meat because, well, people in the house, they eat meat. So my kids eat a lot of meat. Some days they might not like it. I don't push it. Some days they might come back for more and point at the meat, and I'll serve them that. So I make sure I have those, supplies on hand to be able to feed them. So they didn't really feel anything, everything was just an assignment for them. We didn't have power. Well, they found it strange. I cook with stove, wood stove, clay stove. Well, it was exciting. I had to make sure they are away from fire because everything is just like a game for them, So until it's a little bit dark, and yeah, they are all over mommy. So yeah, they didn't feel it much. They didn't watch TV. They were excited to get the light back, but when the light was not there, they were excited as well. So they were fed. They knew that I rationed the food, not because we didn't have it, but I just didn't want to cook. Usually I serve them leftover dinner for lunch. They didn't have that, so they noticed it, that they will eat the snacks and dry cereal for lunch, but they were okay. And then we got bananas, and they'll eat a lot of bananas. I'll serve them a plate full of grapes. They will snack on it for a while. Well, that's that. We just did what we could to cope with the situation. So, and I'm grateful that we are able to get out of it. And there is some cities in the same state that we are in that for 3 weeks now they don't have power. So hopefully they will get power back soon. It's just that hard, and not having And in the news they say 90% of houses there have a sort of damage to it. Here some houses got damage. We didn't have any damage to our house, so I'm grateful for that. Let's talk about freezers. And I recorded videos that I'm publishing now, but they were like recorded in July, and I'll continue to publish them. And those videos showed how we stock up, and is an attempt to share with you how you should purchase your grocery items on budget or within budget, and stock up at the same time for a month or more, to have a month or more of food supply at home. So I'll continue to publish those videos so that you can see how much food I put in my freezers before the storm. So I have 3 chest freezers. Saturday morning, I told my husband that we need to go through those freezers to see what needs to go in the trash, because I just didn't want to have to deal with a mess. And I won't be able to empty them when we get power. I won't be able to get into them, clean them if I have to work, because I work from home from my employer. And by the way, the director of my department stopped by. I say that, and my supervisor stopped by a few days later to check on me as well, and that was very nice of them. And he didn't have power. I think he got his back a day before mine. So, and he has a newborn at home, so I was a little bit worried, concerned about them. Don't know how the baby will handle the heat, but he said that he was fine. So, and he worked, so he got his back before mine. So it was very nice of them that they stopped by to see how we are doing. We talk from distance because of the social distancing. So, and yeah, so the freezer, so I have 3 chest freezers. So on Saturday morning, my husband helped me. We opened the vegetable freezer, chest freezer. That's a smaller one. It's the smallest among them all. Well, things thawed in that freezer, and let me point it out, all my 3 chest freezers, nothing went bad. Nothing went bad in my chest freezers for 6 days. My meat freezer, I would say 7 days, because I open it again on Sunday. That's when I clean it up. Sunday, from Monday to Sunday, without power for that chest freezer. Nothing in my chest freezer went bad. So now my smallest chest freezer, maybe 5 cubic, I don't know, that's what might be, it was full of vegetables. Everything, 99.9% of things thawed. I have semi-hard frozen strawberries there, but pretty much everything from that freezer went out and went in the garden. And I have some berries that leak into that freezer, and I clean it up, wash it, move it, wipe out outside of it, and wipe the floor. I use the soap that we sell, our olive oil soap that we have now on our website, with an old source of my husband, with water, and I just wash it all up in the basement, because we didn't have power and I couldn't dare to hose it and send that water to my sump pump, because sump pump has electricity, is electricity powered, and I have a second one that is mechanical. If the electricity fail, that will send water to the street. But I never really tested before to know if that mechanical one is working. A plumber told me before that those mechanical ones just don't work really. So I don't know if it's working, but thankfully the sump pump hole was dry. I checked a few times, it was dry. So we didn't have much rain. Only Friday we had a thunder type of storm. It didn't last with a little rain, but I didn't have flooding in the basement. That was great. So I didn't want to send water to that some pump since there is nothing to pump water out that I was sure about. So just wash it with soap, pour water in it to rinse it, scoop it out, take it outside and dump it. That's how I clean it up. It took longer. That was fine. I couldn't take it all out and get those sticky juice on the floor all the way up. So we just clean it up, move it to the side, and we open the second one. So I decided with taco, my husband decided we tackle the meat. So we opened the meat freezer, things on top thaw. So I took things out to trash, and then I took some out to cook because they were kind of hard. So I took them out to cook that day. It was Saturday morning, and then I noticed that things were frozen. And then I told my husband that, well, and he suggested that we just leave it and work on it on Sunday, because if we have to cook a lot of meat, he wanted to be there so that we don't waste it, because if we cook it, we don't eat it, it'll go in the trash or something like that. We didn't really get power back. But if he's at home, he could take some and put it in the fridge at work. So that was the idea, and we just tossed the rest. So he decided that we work on it on Sunday. So we closed the bag and we went back to the second chest freezer, the medium one, and we opened it. We have like 5 gallons containers of ice cream there, purchased on sale. We use ice cream for holiday and birthday. So I like to stock up on that because I'm just stocking up for the rest of the year. We have a lot of holidays and birthdays, you know, till December and January. Well, ice cream was like soup. Took them out, and my parents wanted to take some scoop. I said, yeah, they are adult, that's their own risk. So they just couldn't see that go to the trash. I asked my husband, he said that's dairy, he wouldn't risk it. So I didn't serve that to the kid. I didn't use it. My husband didn't. My parents took some. The rest we just dump it outside and wash the container so that I have them here. In fact, I have 3 here. I think my parents took 2. So yeah, so we have them, wash it all. But I have videos when we purchased them, and I think one of them was not full because it was leftover from a birthday or holiday or something like that, or 4th of July or something like that. So yeah, I have butter. The only thing that I regretted was butter. When I took the butter, we have like 4, 5 or 6 pounds of butter. They're all hard. If I have thought about it, I'll have asked my husband, maybe we should put it back in the meat freezer. You know, I didn't really want to continue open that meat freezer. I was more scared of losing more meat there. And they went in the trash before it came to me later that, oh, I could just have put it there and save those butters. So I think they are the only things that were already frozen in that second freezer. I have yogurt that was frozen, so I took it out for the kids to have it. I was kind of surprised to find those yogurt. It was just in small jar that I have there that I can use to make homemade yogurt. So I took it out. I found raspberry frozen, took it out and added to the yogurt for them. I found a graham cracker that I crushed to make pie. So we have butter, graham cracker, we have, you know, berries, right? Good combination for pie. Well, they all went in the trash. The graham cracker, I used some on the yogurt with the raspberries that came from the garden, and they ate until they told me that it was just too sweet, and we tossed the rest. So all the remaining graham cracker went in the back. It was like a gallon bag worth of it, so it went in the trash. And I found mussels. So I have mussels semi-frozen. I took it out, so I was able to find some stuff in that freezer cold, because I told you before nothing was bad, they all just thaw. So right, so I took some stuff out that day for dinner. So I found a lot of peas because we stock up on peas. So I found a lot of peas. At the end, I cooked them and they went to trash because not really people eat them. We have power, but by the time I clean up the fridge, it was just so many hours after I cook, so I just tossed the peas. In fact, now that I'm remembering that, I should have just put in the garden, but it was dark, maybe around 9 p.m. I don't want to open the door at that time, so I just put in the trash. And it was just steamed peas, but it was a lot of bags of those of 12 ounces that I cook. I took the mussels out, and my parents use it, they fry it. So I found French fries. I purchased some French fries for a birthday, and I have a video for that. So the leftover, in fact, I think many fries went in the trash from the meat freezer, but I found one bag that was in that again freezer that was still hard, semi-hard. So I took it out for that dinner. We have peas, we have fries, we have mussels. It was just like a random things, and I just took them out. I found bread, I took it out, like kind of French type of bread, kind of small size, many of those. Took it out. And meat from that meat freezer, I took some meat out, 2 ground beef, and the ground beef went in the trash. I cooked it, but it was out as well as the peas for hours, so it went in the trash. And I smoke the pork steak, 3 pork steaks. So the kid ate the leftover. My parents didn't eat the steaks, so they ate the mussels. The steaks, I was able to put in the oven with my dinner while I was cleaning the fridge. So